Hello there! Dzień dobry wieczór. Z tej strony Franek 14 KRK i witam was bardzo serdecznie. I kontynuujemy naszą przygodę z naszym oto liskiem, truskiem, pięknym wilkiem. Słodziutkim, misiaczkiem, mysiaczkiem, pysio. Coś się podobno otworzyło. Co? Nie. Tutaj nie. Jednak tutaj nie. I lecimy sobie dalej. Tam chyba coś się otworzyło tam. Jakaś droga. Dobra, lecimy sobie dalej. Dosłownie lecąc. Zdetlis sobie gościu. Grzybki. Nie no, tak lisy nie potrafią składać. Zaprzeczenie kurde. Jak to lisy robią? Nie. Nie na tej planecie. Takie rzeczy. Jakaś inna planeta chyba. Mimo, że na Alasce się to rozgrywa podobno. Gdzieś na górze jest. Dostać teraz. Próbujemy się dostać za chwilę. Zaraz, chwilę. Tak, ale tam coś jeszcze jest? Czy tylko wydaje? Biegnij, lisie, biegnij! No biegaj, lisie, biegaj! Coś się jeszcze świeci. Daleko założę. Coś tam odblokowało się, czy tylko jakieś moje speedy? To już byłem wcześniej, ale nie wiem, czy to się coś odblokowało, czy się świeci, a tam to nie powinno. Nie, kurde. Trzeba było spamić tą spawkę. Leczy! Jeszcze raz. mogę tak jak Jedi sobie robić. Ale nie mogę. Dobra. Kolis od razu leci w dół. Nie, zrobione jest to. Jeszcze... A, czyli zmarnowałem kolejne minuty tego odcinka. Znowu oprowadzą was w całe miejsce. No ale co, byłem ciekawy, czy to znowu coś to samo, czy może coś się tam zadziałało w tej sprawie. O, mordę jeża. O! O! Trudne no. Dobra, lecimy do głównego wątku. Tak, no i tutaj się odblokowały te rzeczy, tak? Jej. Dobra, lecimy dalej.
The perpetrator stood nearby, unfazed, like nothing was wrong. My dad is dead, and he's never coming back, Rachel. I can tell you these stories, but I can never reminisce with him again. He can never hold a grandchild that we'll probably never be able to have. I can never talk to him again, and I'll never be able to say I'm sorry for everything.
Oj. Kolejny... Kurczę, tam też mogłem zrobić w tym pierwszym odcinku, no ale... Ja nie zrobiłem. Nie widziałem chyba.
It was really important to me that the wolf in this story that takes the fox's cubs,
O,
that it
ty.
wasn't explained at all. Like it's just this entity that's in the background.
Ej, gdzie
And
on...
of course it's supposed to represent something bigger than a wolf or even the fox. It's supposed to represent like the specter of death. And it comes when you least expect it. There's no justification. He's just there, always watching.
Jaj! Nie. Ale... Jaja! Wow, ale Tatry! Lisek w Tatrach! Charakterem. Jupi, jaja, jupi, ja. O kurde! Nie! Dajcie mi... O! Ha, jest! Ale to jest majestatyczne, piękne, więc kurwali. Zdarzenie, nie wiem, czy są jakieś znajdźki tutaj. Co to jest takiego? Wow. Coś pięknego. Taka miła odskocznia od tego, co się dzieje normalnie, bo cały czas, nie, napierdzielanie bohaterów nie, albo jakiegoś albo instruktory są instruktorzy, ale muzyka jest super. Słuchaj, słuchajcie. Ale żaba. Coś jest. Tylko nic tutaj nie znajdę. O, nic. Dobra. Po prostu mam iść do przodu. Okej. Jupi. Ale fajnie. Ręki ani nogi. Komu kitką przyodzieje, ten się nawet nie spodzieje. Idzie lisek koło drogi, nie ma ręki ani nogi. Komu kitką przyodzieje, ten się nawet nie spodzieje. Lecimy odkrywać następne tajemnice.
I need to go to bed. I just can't talk about this anymore. Good night.
Dobranoc? Ale jeszcze... Ale smutno, nie? Że już kurde się żegna na dobranoc. Chyba z jego ojcem. Tam chyba jest kolejny ten. Ale góra tu jest chili, jak kurde. Ale góry górzyste są. Ale góry górzyste są. Ale fajnie gadam, nie? Nie, raczej nie ma nic. Albo coś było. No, a dobra, nie, pierdziele, idę naprzód. nie spodzieje! Aaaa! Ale normalnie to... tak. Znaczy tam... nie ma. Albo jest. Dobra, nie chcę. O, w mordę jeża. Co jest w kosmosie? Ale piękny kosmos.
Joseph, you can't go to sleep feeling like this.
Joseph.
I'm sorry for everything, and I know you need space, but I'm here for you. You don't need to feel so lost. Joseph, have I ever told you what my mother was like?
Ale kosmiczny. Fajny, tak. Wow.
Hello, my name is Elise Whaley, and I was the voice actress for Rachel. I'm also David's wife, so that was convenient for working together. I was actually the voice actress for his first game, Home is Where One Starts, and I guess that I did a good enough job that David wanted me back, so I did the voice acting for this one as well. David definitely coached me through it because I'm pretty inexperienced when it comes to that. Home is Where One Starts was my first time ever doing voice acting of any kind. And we watched a lot of trailers of movies we liked to get the voice right of female leads who were talking in the trailer and try to mimic that and bring that into the game. So that had the right kind of feel and the right kind of atmosphere for the voice. My character actually is the same character from Home is Where One Starts. If you've played that game, you probably connected that together. And this is her probably about 15 years later, maybe 20 years later, in this game. I was happy to revisit the character of Rachel. We kind of leave her in an ambiguous spot in Home is Where One Starts. It definitely ends on a hopeful note, but there's not a lot of details. And in this game, you see that she's able to move on through a lot of her issues that she had from her abusive home and be able to start her own family and start a new cycle without that abuse, which I think is really inspiring.
Sarenka.
You know what it's like not to have a mom at home. And you know how hard that made my childhood. What helped me was watching the birds in the morning before the school bus came. I thought that my mother was one of those birds, and it made me want to be free like her. My mom taught me how to fold origami cranes while she was in the hospital. So I told myself I would fold one every day until I could fly myself.
Także, wiesz Sarenka? Cześć Sarenko.
I think we both have always loved animals, and for me that love started with a dog. Sometimes this Rottweiler would come up to our property line and wait at the fence for me, but only once in a while. I was sure to check every day immediately after school, and it usually ended in disappointment. I would even steal money from my passed-out dad just so I could buy these off-brand dog biscuits. Even when she did stop by, she never went beyond the fence. Why was she so scared?
Ciutki, ciutki, ciutki. Wiadomo, że zwierzaczki są fajne.
So it's always interesting working with your spouse because, especially on a creative project, because they want your feedback, but it's something that's also dear to their heart, and they're dear to your heart, and you definitely don't want to hurt their feelings. So I was a little nervous when David asked me, he had finally finished writing the script, and he asked me to go over it and see what I thought. And I had minored in English. I majored in art, but I minored in English, so I felt like I had a little bit of experience. But I was definitely like a little scared because you don't want to be too harsh, but you also want to be honest. And it was the biggest relief when I read the script, and I was like, oh, good. My husband's a good writer. I don't have to change that much about this, just a few like grammatical things. And that was just like the biggest relief for me because it can be a tricky balance working with your spouse and making sure that that honesty is there, but also that love and the support is there as well.
I think my dad was the opposite of your dad in almost every way, except he was in the military as well. He coped with alcohol of every kind. The trailer started falling apart, he got angry, and I withdrew. More and more I became the weird, quiet kid, ate lots of Orgali birds, and carried dog biscuits around. I think we were pretty similar when it came to being the weird kids. And that same sincerity in college was one of the reasons I was so drawn to you.
Dobry nawigacji w kosmosie. Alkoholizm. Dobra. Sarenko, chodź tutaj teraz.
Life got worse and worse. And at one point, I really didn't think I could survive another day with my soul still intact. I had no real friends, let alone neighbors, since we lived in the middle of nowhere. I should have talked to my teacher, but I was scared what he would do if he found out. As I waited for the school bus one morning, I walked around until I found something in an abandoned shed. Something I can't put into words.
So we're talking about Home is Where One Starts a lot, so if you haven't played that game, maybe this doesn't make as much sense, or maybe this is a little plug that you should go play it. But in that game, it actually features one of my artworks. I work as an artist and paper cutting, actually, and David used one of my artworks as a graffitied stencil in Home is Where One Starts that's against the wall of this shack. And it actually shows up again in the first tree, just a fragment of it. The first tree, the title actually comes from one of my artworks that I made back in 2015, I want to say. And I made this artwork while I was pregnant with our first child. And it had a lot of meaning for me, and David actually helped me come up with the title. And he asked, because I was really struggling, I was like, I have no idea what to call this, and I always go to David for title ideas and to bounce ideas off of him, and that's like the only way I can ever come up with a title is by talking with him. So we were talking back and forth and looking at this artwork, and he said, well, what kind of like movies or shows were you watching while you were making the artwork? Because my work's pretty tedious, so sometimes I'll watch a show or do some Netflix binging while I'm creating it. And I was like, oh, I actually watched Tree of Life a ton. And then we're like, Tree of Life, and we started thinking more about that, and then arrived at the first tree. So it started off as one of my artworks and then became a part of David's art, which I think is really cool that we were able to share that title.
Yeah.
I summoned courage I didn't know I had.
Na rowerze.
I broke into my dad's room and found the key to the shed where he had locked my bike. I'll never forget that feeling. The wind rushing by my ears as the sun rose over fields of wheat. I was flying for the first time. I biked as far as my legs could take me until I found a house that felt friendly and that felt like home. Those strangers helped me in so many ways. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have found my foster family. And if it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have met you.
Na rowerze. O. Nie w tą stronę, odwróć się. Nie. O. O. Ale się buguje lisek. Ojej. Dobra. Lecimy. Sarenko ma. Chodź do lisa. Chodź do lisa rudego. Żeby ci wypomni. Whoa.
You have strength, Joseph, and you're not as alone as you think.
Kosmos zamienił się
It's
w
all
dom.
just so pointless. Just waiting for life to happen. It's like having the home I always wanted is cursed out of my reach. The thought of being a parent myself. How could I do that when I couldn't even be a good son? I'm sorry. I know what you're saying. I just don't know how things will work out. These quiet hours will turn into years. We will wonder which roads passed us by.
Then we'll forge a new road together. Besides, I discovered for myself that one fateful morning where any hopeful road leads to. There may be thorns and mist, but it always leads to the same thing.
And what's that?
Family.
I'm so glad that you're part of my family, Rachel.
And I'm glad you're part of mine.
Wow, jaki słodki. I? Ska?
A question I get a lot is why a fox? And it ties into just how important family is for me. And Fox is actually a family name from my wife's side, from Elise. And she always heard about the legacy of the Fox family. And because of that, growing up, it was her favorite animal. She even made these 2 wooden foxes for our wedding cake toppers. So I thought it would be cool to have that animal in the game while these 2 people are having this conversation in the middle of the night.
Okej. Tak wszystko. Jakieś medale, kurde. Ten skurzony lisek. Nie, lisek. Stary nas. Karabiny nasz. Wow. Dobra, lecę dalej, zobaczyć co tam jeszcze jest. Bralka. Wow, znalazłem, super. Wiedziałem, żeby nie iść od razu prosto, haha. Są jakieś kurde zające. Ale ojciec. Normalnie dzieła sztuki. Teraz lecimy na prawo, na lewo, w górę i w dół, do przodu, do tyłu, w górę i w dół. Teraz idę w drugą stronę. Teraz sobie coś... O, jest. 105. A zobaczmy sobie, może jak wygląda gra na low, very low. Powiem tak, trochę w oczy kuje, ale medium. Ultra. Ultra jest dużo lepiej. Coś pięknego. No, ładnie, ładnie. Teraz, zanim tam pójdę, to wiem, że coś się zmieni. Teraz. Jeszcze obczajmy tą stronę. A później się okaże, że nie, to tutaj się zmieni, a tam... Bardzo fajnie. Polecam. Bo jest... nie wiem, czy to wypuszczę szybko. Ta gierka jest co za darmo, więc trzeba korzystać gorące. O, to jest chyba ojca jego. W wojsku. Alasce. O, tutaj coś znalazłem. Jej, kolejny znalazłem. I cyk. 106. Teraz idziemy... po wodzie. I schodzi po wodzie. A to tak, bo on że zrobił pływania. Nie. Nie, kurwa. Coś budowało. Ale idziemy teraz. O, coś znalazłem jeszcze. Kolejny. Za skałą się schował. Co za... Nie. 108. Patataj, 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 patataj. Ale bym ominął. Wow. Hehe. Hehehe. Ale widzę jelenie na dole. Kapitalne. Ja idę zaraz tam, idę. Zejść normalną drogą. Audio się. Łocie dupia. Cześć. Hej. Siema. Wjeżdżamy jelenia, czy tylko... Łocie dupia. Coś pięknego. O, cześć. Zjem cię. Łocie jeleniu. Na rogi cię wskoczy. Patataj, jeleniu, patataj, jelenie. Kurde. Zablokowałem się na jeleniu. Ale są piękne jedzą. Coś pięknego. Cześć, łosiu. Łosie. Nie jeleń, tylko łośku. Pomyliły mi się zwierzęki, albo kurde. Wjeżdżanie. Nie mam wody. Tam to skoczę. Nie, dobra. Czyli możemy iść dalej. Ale tutaj długo się zatrzymałem, bo takie piękne widoczki. Jeszcze ujeżdżałem jelenia albo ujeżdżałem tego łosia. Dobra, i już jestem. O, ale tam fajny, młode. Jak się nie wiem. No ale dobra, lecimy dalej. To jest 113. O, lecimy dalej. Z przygodą. Łonisku. Trusku. O, tutaj będzie jakiś parkurek. Elementy zręcznościowe, tak zwane. A mnie słychać dobrze, tak? Chyba słychać mnie dobrze. 120. O! Jakaś scenka będzie. Loading. Łapki.
The fox knew her last cub would be waiting for her at the first tree. She was almost there. The rain cascaded onto the Jade Valley where the entrance to the tree was. Life was protected there, because that's where life began. It was now only a mother and a daughter left. Items from my life still dotted the ground as she moved closer to her destination and destiny.
No, byłaś. No, było tutaj. Mamy... O, jest. Kolejny punkt. Ło, ile punkcików. Gwiazdek z nieba. Ło. Ja zbierałem kolejną gwiazdkę z nieba. O,
Usually what catches people's attention of the first tree is the visuals, of course. And I was inspired by a lot of people making these levels. The second level is inspired by just these beautiful autumn photos of a real forest. And this level, the Jade Valley, is inspired by the artwork of Heather Penn, who did the Overland games. I just love those greens with a lot of gray in it. I love the strong vignettes in the corners of the frame. And of course, this environment pack was made by the very talented Swedish designer Mikael Gustafsson. And of course, his initial designs inspired me, and I was able to build off of that. And I'm really grateful that he allowed his environment pack to be made publicly available.
At the end of high school, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Drive. I looked into the best architecture schools on the West Coast, then got a dose of reality when looking at other students' portfolios and the high cost of tuition. I still wanted to be something, to be the next Alvaro Siza, and to make those thousands of sketches worth something in my grand history. But now even an internship sounds impossible. Siza helped me understand how essential emotion is in architecture, and he also said light is the real composer of space. I like to think these glints of light, like not finding a job, or even a strange dream about a fox, are something I should be thankful for, even if the illuminated space is something I'm less than comfortable with.
łocie. Dobra, to może w tym sobie zakończymy. No, może sobie w tym odcinku zakończymy. To by było na tyle. Trzymajcie się i na razie. Hej, hej!